Hi, this is Naturally Gabby. This is my YouTube channel, and this is story time, story time. I don't know. Maybe I'll make a little jingle for my story times. Story time, story time, story time with Gabby. Yeah. Don't judge me. Okay, so I'm sorry, I just realized how serious the story time is gonna be, but whatever. It is what it is. Um this is going to be me sharing a very important healing that I've recently gone through. I was about to say, for those of you who don't know, there's a very small group of people that know about this and fully comprehend and fully understand what was going on with me, because I only shared with a very small group of people. There are people who know about it but don't understand what was happening, and this is not for them. This is for people who may have gone through this as well. I during during this healing process for this trauma that manifested physically in my body, I was looking everywhere for someone who could tell me that everything was going to be okay, because they were going through the same thing. And I did not find anyone until after I healed myself. I don't know. And I realized that I really needed to share, because there's one thing going through trauma, well, going through something that takes over your life is already one thing. Having no one that you know or can find understand is a lot. um this was very recent. Okay, let me just start from the beginning. September 14th, I think, 2018, my period started. And then it never ended. Yeah. When it first started, I think I was on my period for about 2 or 3 months. And I don't mean like spotting or, here or there, or like 2 weeks and then like maybe 2 weeks again. I mean, I was constantly on my period with a heavy flow for 3 months straight. And then I think it stopped for 2 months. And then I had a regular period in the beginning of 2019. And then I think that was like in February or March. No, February. It was in February. And I thought everything was done. I thought everything was good. I went to a doctor in October, and I don't want to say that he told me that it was normal, because I cannot remember. But he pretty much told me that he couldn't find what was wrong. I think he said like, oh, you're anemic, and your blood count is low. And I'm just like, well, I could have told you that. I've been anemic since I was 16, and I've been losing blood every day copious amounts. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, pretty much I didn't really get much help from him. During this time, I started to gain a lot of weight because I could barely move. Losing that amount of blood is no joke. It affects your body in every possible way. So anyways, fast forward, my period skips for a month, and then it came back in April, in the beginning of April. And I thought it was going to be a regular period, went on a kind of vacay. I went on a kind of vacay, and it did not stop. I ended up being on my period from April to, I want to say, the beginning of September. I was on my period that whole time. That's what, April, May, June, July, August. That's almost 6 months. It was terrifying. I kept, sorry. I mean, I'm not sorry. I'm sexy. Women need to stop apologizing for things that, you know, we don't need to be apologetic about. I was in pain. Back pain, leg pain, neck pain, you know. I was doing yoga like 3 times a week because I was terrified that if I stopped moving, I would never be able to move. You know, I had started yoga, I started going to the gym, and the gym became too much. So then I just stuck with yoga, and I had a personal yoga teacher who would come to my place and we would do yoga together. So she was able to give me that one-on-one attention that I needed at the time because I was struggling. And then it got really bad. I ended up moving and I couldn't really do much. I was always out of breath. I was also gaining more and more weight. The way the doctor explained it to me was that when your body is losing that much blood, it holds on to everything, trying to survive. Because when your body is losing blood, it thinks that it's dying. So I was pretty much bleeding to death. I think it was the end of August, I had to go and get a blood transfusion. A blood transfusion is, I mean, I don't know if you, like, they show it in shows and movies, like, you know, oh, she's lost too much blood, she gotta get a blood transfusion, and, you know, they hook her up with the blood bag and, you know, or whoever with the blood bag and gives them blood. I had to get about Was it 3? It was 2 or 3. I can't remember. I had to get bags of blood. My best friend came with me. My best friend Lily. She came with me. I was in the hospital for like 13 hours because there was like a power outage and all type of nonsense, which they didn't even inform us about. So we had no idea what the heck was going on and why it was taking so long. But it was scary. I've always disliked hospitals. Like I said in one of my videos, I'm an empath, so I feel everybody's energy all the time. Back then I really didn't know how to control it either. So stepping into the hospital was like, you know, when people say they go to certain places like memorials or like, like the Holocaust Museum and where the Twin Towers are, and, even when they go to like beautiful churches and places like that, the cave that they say Jesus was resurrected, and it like they get this overwhelming wash of emotion. That's what stepping into a hospital is like for me, but in the negative way, where I feel like I'm drowning in despair and sadness. I started to have an anxiety attack like 10 minutes in. So, which obviously was not good for me. I was already struggling to walk the hallways, to get in and out of bed, to use the bathroom. Just everything was a struggle at that point. When I got that blood, though, I felt, when I got the blood, that's when I realized how bad it had gotten, because I felt so good, so strong, and being able to feel the drastic difference was scary. It was like, oh, that was not good. When something slowly deteriorates and when something like happens instantly, it's just different. After that, I went and saw a gyno. I did a lot of tests. I had been doing a lot of tests from before then. I saw about 4 doctors, I think. I tried acupuncture. I tried a lot of different things. But really I did not know what I was doing, and no one could tell me what was wrong. I had ultrasounds done, a multitude of pelvic exams. I had no idea what I was doing or what I could do other than what I was doing, which was asking doctors to tell me what was wrong, and not really getting any answers. So I went to this gyno, and she was pretty much saying like, you can take these pills, it'll stop your period, and then you have a regular period, and then it'll stop it for like 2 months or whatever. And during those 2 months, I want you to come in and get a, what the heck is that thing called? Pretty much birth control. The one that they implant into your uterus. And I believe that birth control was the reason why I was in that situation in the first place, because the times before that I had tried birth control, it messed up my period. I started gaining weight. I actually really started to struggle with my weight after I started birth control, as well as a myriad of other issues that I started having due to the birth control symptoms and such. So I was open to the idea, but I wanted to do my own research because I already had an understanding that birth control is not natural, and that it really does affect our bodies, our minds, our hormones, and from what I've experienced, not in the best way. So after doing a lot of research, hearing a lot of horror stories, I didn't go looking for them. They are just out there. I decided that I did not want to have this foreign object planted into my uterus. And my period came back in December. So I had like 2 blessed months without constant bleeding. It came back in December and it was pretty light. And I went on vacation, had a great time. And then towards the end of the month, it started to get worse. And then by the time I was back in January, I had a heavy flow again. And I think it was March when it started to get bad. Even though I hadn't been on my period for 2 months and I had new blood given to me before that period stopped, I never got the amount of blood. This is going to get kind of technical and I might say this wrong, but like the hemoglobin, okay, it's like, it's supposed to be your blood level, I think, is supposed to be at, 14. I was at 6 when I went to get the blood transfusion. The lowest you should be is a 7. And then when they gave me the blood, I was at 9. So even though I had blood and I felt better, it was still pretty low. And what the doctors explained to me was that because I was losing so much blood, my cells couldn't create more fast enough to catch up with the amount of blood that I was losing. So even though I had 2 months of not bleeding, I still wasn't okay. So by March, after a month and a half of heavy bleeding, by the end of March, I was getting pretty bad. I couldn't walk from like my room to the bathroom. My room was like right next to my bathroom. Walking across my apartment was a chore. Walking anywhere else was definitely a chore. When people would ask me like, oh, how you doing? What's going on with you? It got to the point where I was always saying, not that great. Because I've always been honest when people ask me those questions, especially recently, and I wasn't okay. I was terrified. None of the doctors could tell me what was wrong with me. They didn't find anything. And it got to the point where when I would talk to a new doctor, because they had no idea of my history and did not ask, or really care to know, they just assumed that it had to do with my weight. And, then I would have to get into the whole explanation of I didn't start gaining weight like this until after the bleeding started. And, then it would get off track and I would in this society, especially when it comes to women of color, Black women, a lot of doctors are not interested in what we have to say. They don't believe us. And instead of trying to listen to us and help us, they do a lot of blaming, you know? And after about 6 doctors at this point, I realized that I was wasting my time talking to people who did not actually care or want to heal me, but just give me medication, you know? Oh, we can give you weight loss pills. Oh, we can give you birth control. That was my options. You know, the last doctor that I spoke to pretty much told me that if I don't take birth control, I'm going to die. That was my only option. Last 2, I should say. So I started to try to figure out what I could do for myself. I mean, I was spending a lot of time in bed. I would sleep for hours because I didn't have the energy to do anything. I would still push myself though. I didn't stop doing yoga until I think May or no, yeah, until like May, I think, because even though the pandemic happened, we were still able to do it over Zoom and FaceTime and stuff like that. I felt really scared. I started to feel really angry because it seemed like no one understood me or what I was going through or what was happening, and everybody was trying to help me. And like I said, it's hard when it feels like it's only you. You know, I ended up self-diagnosing myself in December with PCOS because it made sense, and I had an aunt who had gone through something similar, and that's what I went with. There were times when I was so weak, so dizzy. Let me just go through like kind of like a list of symptoms. Couldn't hold my bladder. Like I would get up like 3 or 4 times in the middle of the night to pee. So wasn't getting much sleep. So, couldn't hold my bladder, insomnia, couldn't do any inversions as in, putting my head down. I would get migraines, pressure headaches. I would get dizziness, faintness. I would faint. I would start to lose feeling in my arms and my legs. I would get these, I don't even know what to call it. It's not a cramp. It's like my hand and my arm would like seize, like it would get stuck. I would get Charlie horses. I actually had so many Charlie horses that they didn't even faze me. With the help of yoga, I was able to just breathe through Charlie horses. Like it got to a point where I wouldn't even wake up fully when it happened if I was sleeping, and I would just I got really used to Charlie horses. Yeah. My vision would get blurry. I didn't have an appetite. I would eat like maybe 1 meal a day, if I remembered, which, was even more frustrating because during this whole time I kept gaining more and more weight, and wasn't really eating that much, and it was just kind of like I was I mean I what I was eating wasn't that great, you know. I was doing a lot of ordering in because I couldn't really exert enough energy to get up and cook myself a meal. You know, like standing and washing the dishes was hard. Cleaning was getting hard. I had to hire a maid after some point, which, you know, privilege, because I couldn't imagine someone going through what I was going through and not having the financial support that I have. It was hard. And I got used to it after a while. But then it got to the point where taking a shower was a problem. There was one time when I was taking a shower, and I guess I like was moving too fast, or the water was too hot, or I bent over or something, and I started to feel faint, which, if anybody's ever experienced faintness or has ever passed out, they can understand how terrifying it is to start to feel faint in the shower. You know, being naked in the shower is like one of the most vulnerable places you could be. And when my vision started getting blurry, I was just like, what if I pass out and bust open my head? No one would find me. No one knows that it's this bad. You know, like, how long will it take before they realize that something is wrong? And getting out of the shower and walking to my room, it felt like my whole body was numb. And I just thought, I'm gonna die. Right now, like, I'm going to die. And I have never been afraid to die. It is a normal process of life. It is balance. You're born, you die. But I didn't want to die alone, you know, in New York, in my apartment, you know, with my cats who weren't even in the room with me. During a pandemic, naked. I called my best friend, didn't FaceTime her because I didn't want her to see me. I just wanted to hear her voice. I didn't want to call anybody that would freak out. I didn't want to call my little brother and make him feel like guilty or whatever. Like, I knew if anybody could handle being on the phone with me when I take my last breath, it would be my best friend, Latifa. So I called her, even though she lives in Georgia, so it's not like she could have done anything. But at the time, I wasn't thinking like, oh my God, I should call the ambulance. Like, I thought I was about to like close my eyes and die. And I did not want to spend my last moments on the phone trying to explain to an ambulance why they should hurry up and come. Yeah. Long story short, I did not die. after calming down my heart, which at this point takes a lot longer because it's moving at hammer time, because it's struggling to pump blood to the rest of my organs, because there's not a lot of blood to pump. Yeah. I was okay. As okay as you can get with all that shit going on. I decided to go stay with my friend Lily, who lives in the city with me. And I stayed with her for 2 weeks. It was great. You know, she was able to help me get a little better. I got to the point where I was strong enough to do some yoga moves that I hadn't been able to do for months. But I was still not even at, I was going to say not 100%, but I wasn't even at 50%. I wasn't even at 25%. It was like I went from 0 to like 15%, which is better than nothing, right? I decided that I wanted to go to some type of facility that could monitor me and help me, and probably help me end the period. Because along with all these things that are going on, I'm still bleeding heavily every single day. Yeah, I guess I should. I'm like thinking about like, oh, should I mention this? Like, I can understand if a lot of women have been through this and have not wanted to share. Being on your period nonstop, I would not recommend it. It is uncomfortable. It makes you feel, you never feel clean. Never. You never feel clean. You're always wondering if you stink, if you might bleed on your clothes, if anyone could notice how uncomfortably you're walking. I felt like I was always being watched when I left the house. So, yeah, getting to the point where I couldn't leave the house, I was perfectly fine. I was also terrified that I was going to run out of eggs. When I looked into like, this whole situation cured me of like my WebMD obsession. I would try to self-diagnose all the time. But it kept leading me to a lot of dark places. And I was seeing quite often that people who go through these type of things end up not being able to have kids. And that had been one of my biggest fears. And it was so crazy because I remember when it had first started up again back in 2019, I had like called my best friend Latifa and like had a breakdown. I'm just like, I just kept picturing myself not being able to have children. And I kept feeling like that gift was gone. I have wanted to have kids since I was a child myself, you know. I already got the baby names, you know. imagining myself never getting to experience that was like a nightmare. And apart from not recognizing myself, feeling my body was fighting against me, not knowing if I would ever be better or if I would go into another year bleeding to death, the thought that I would never be able to have kids was the hardest part. And I was certain that whatever was going on with me was my fault. There was something that I was not doing correctly. By this time, I had decided that I was going to go and stay with my family in Georgia. There was so much around that. Like I said in part 5 of my series, Gabbing with Humanity, Heal Yourself, do not surround yourself with people or things that cannot support you, probably because they haven't healed themselves. It will hinder your healing process. I was able to get myself in more of a controlled, not even controlled, in more of a safe environment. And after doing a lot of spiritual conversations, a lot of self-talks, letting go of people and things that were not serving me and never have. And most importantly, believing that I was healed already, it stopped. It stopped, and my periods have been normal ever since. That was just in August. When I healed myself. Before that, before I came to Georgia, I had an experience where I went to go get another blood transfusion because I wanted to make sure that I'll be able to make the trip to Georgia. And I was yet again, my human rights were ignored and violated by doctors. I had a really traumatic experience. The thought of a pelvic exam gives me the heebie-jeebies now. I might do another story time about that. I mean, I technically already have one because I spoke about it a couple of days after, but I'll decide if I post it or not. After talking to doctors, getting tests done, getting blood transfusions, trying a million different herbs because I did go the holistic route, changing my diet, nothing worked until I told myself and truly believed and had faith that I am healed. what I already knew what was happening in my body at that point was manifested physically from trauma, from stress. And I was looking for a cure. When what I really needed to do was come to the realization that the mind is very powerful, and the trauma that you hold in your body can be just as powerful. And I had to decide which was going to win. But I'm here. I'm healed. That is no longer a part of my life. I'm grateful, blessed, and I'm moving forward. And I wanted to share this story so that if anybody else is going through this, they can know that they are not alone. And if you watch this ever and want to reach out to me and need someone to talk to, I'm completely open to that. And also, I wanted to express how important it is to go on the healing journey, to try to heal yourself, to try to know yourself, to let go of things that don't serve you. It's all a part of the process. I had been holding on to traumas and issues and letting it manifest in whatever way it wanted to manifest for a very long time. And it had gotten to the point where that is how it manifested in my body. And my happiness is more important than telling myself that I'm okay, or lying to myself that I don't have any problems or any issues that I need to heal or fix. You have to ask yourself the question, what else can I do when there seems to be no solution? Because there always is. Okay. Thank you for listening. My name is Naturally Gabbie. This is my YouTube channel. Peace, love, and moonlight.